Now this is the video for exercise 1. We're going to try to keep it to a 5-10 minute video. Remember, this is a peer participation project. Basically, if you do everything in the video, you're good, right? It usually takes about as long to do it as it takes as long you to watch the video. So this is the kind of thing that you should really only have to take maybe 15 minutes on, right? It doesn't have to look like a picture. You don't have to use a reference. You don't even have to follow a normal naming convention. You can just kind of save it as exercise 1. You don't have to create projects for this. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. This is really just kind of me getting to show you guys how to do a bi-rail and having you guys do a bi-rail. So I said, hey, you guys did bi-rails at least once. Now, you saw before that we've kind of talked a little bit about splines and spline modeling and some of the spline tools and NURBS, right? Revolve we saw was pretty cool, right? And we also saw the extrude tube feature was pretty cool. Lofting, not bad, but I don't know if I really say it's better than other options. But those are all the spline features that are like either I'm agnostic about or, hey, I like them, they're cool. This one, bi-rails, I do not like at all. I'm going to be showing you a really simple one. Imagine building a car out of 30, 40, or 50 of these things, and you're not going to like bi-rails, right? You might have a teacher that'll show you how to do bi-rails for cars. A lot of people don't build cars that way at all anymore. I don't. I extrude bridge border edges. I'm secretly going to teach you how to build a car when we do the clock radio, right? I'm going to show you the technique I use to build cars. We're just going to do on something that's not as complicated as a car when we make a clock radio. But I want to at least get you guys to do a simple one. So that way you've kind of been exposed to it, you go into later classes, and it's not totally foreign to you. In this case, it's a lot easier to, because this is curves, right? It's a lot easier to do this from our other views. So I'm going to tap spacebar. Remember, you don't have to set the units for this one. You don't have to create projects. This is just kind of a quick down and dirty exercise. So tap spacebar, I got to my 4 views. I'm going to put my cursor over the side view here, tap spacebar. And we're going to make a simple rowboat shape. And you guys don't have to build the full rowboat. It's really just a kind of shape that's basically kind of like a boat hull, right? And we're not even going to mirror it over. We're just going to make one half of it. Basically, just show me you did a bi-rail. This is what this project is. So we go to create curve tools, right? CV curve. And we saw some of these other curve options that we had before, but usually CV curve works fine. So create curve tool, CV curve tool. And I need to draw what I call 2 rail curves, right? One we're going to draw from kind of the side here, and then we're going to have to draw another one from the top view in a minute. But I'm going to draw kind of the shape of the boat from, if you looked at it from the side, right? This is the side view. So I'm going to left click, left click, left click, left click. And remember, since it's a 3-degree cubic curve by default, you have to create at least 4 points for it to create it. I'll keep created points, and it's good to have them fairly evenly spaced out. And then I can hit enter. And you see that kind of made a curve that looks like kind of like the bottom of the shape of the hull of a boat. So I'm going to tap spacebar, and I'm going to go to my top view here. And I'm going to go to, let's just hit F really quick to see if it zooms in a little bit. And then I'm going to go to create curve tool, CV curve tool again. And I'm going to draw some more points for this one. And I'm going to draw a similar shape, but kind of from the top. And it might be a little back from this, so that's okay. We can kind of move it around a little bit. And clearly, actually, I want to draw it this way. So let's go back a couple steps. Probably going to be from this angle. And maybe from the bottom. There we go. So left click, left click, left click. And you see we're drawing a fairly similar shape, but from the top view. And I'll hit enter. There we go. And you can kind of see in perspective view, and I can hit W for move forward and move this forward a little bit. We can see that I've got kind of the shape for the boat from the side and from the top as separate curves. All right, so that's a big part of kind of the first step of exercise 1. Now, in this case, I'm going to maybe do a quick save scene as here really quick. And you could save it into project 2 if you want to. You can just save it on its own on the desktop. But I'm just going to call this exercise 1. So you guys don't really have to go nuts with the naming convention. Just call it exercise 1 and you're cool, right? So there we go. Now what we need to do is we need to draw curves that we call profiles, right? Kind of like the ribs, right? The curves that connect these. And it's important that they connect. And the way we do that is this snap tool, right? We've already started exploring the snap tools, these magnets right here, right, for our snap tools. That first one's the one we've seen so far, snap to grid, and it snaps to the grid units. We will, on our desk, model in a later project, should be project 3, we will see a snap to vertex. And this is actually one of the more powerful snapping tools, but we haven't used it yet. We're going to get to it, just not right now. But there is this kind of second one right here, which is a magnet and looks like kind of a curve. That's snap to curve. Now, it's easier to do this from our side view. So I'll put my cursor over side view, tap spacebar to maximize it. Make sure snap to curve's on. It's that magnet curve, blue curve right there. And we go to create curve tool, CV curve tool. So the great thing is this does give us a little more practice just using curves, or as people call them, splines, right? Those are synonyms. And with the snap to curve on, you'll notice if I left click drag, you'll notice it snaps to that curve. So that first point, we want to snap to this curve. It actually doesn't really matter which one you start with, but the start and the end points should be snapped to these curves. So I'll just left click, left click, left click. Remember you have to create at least 4. And then I'm going to left click down here and drag. So see how I hold down left mouse button when I get to right on this curve? And I drag to see that it's snapping to the curve, which it is. Then we hit enter. It is important that this start point snaps to this curve and this end point snaps to this curve. If they don't, the bi-rail won't work for those. Don't move this curve. Don't go, oh, I can move it now. Don't move this curve, right? Don't go and move any of the points that are the end points. Don't do that. So I'm going to draw some other curves really quick. So I'll go to create curve tool, CV curve tool. We'll draw one kind of more back here. So we'll left click drag just to make sure it's snapped on. Left click drag right there. And I drag it a little bit just to make sure it's snapped, right? Enter. And of course we can go to create curve tool, CV curve tool. There is actually a command in Maya called repeat, right? Wherever your last tool you've activated from a memory, G will repeat it. So if I hit G, it'll draw a curve again, right? So remember, you left click that first point on this upper curve and drag it to make sure it's not moving off of it. That way we know it's snapped. And then of course we can left click, left click, left click, left click to make some points. And then of course left click on this last curve and drag it just to make sure it's snapped. Hit enter. And in this case, just to remind you where the curve tools are at, I'll go here instead of repeating, but see the curve tool. And in this case, if these aren't exactly perfectly lined up, doesn't matter. Guys, this is participation. If you did a bi-rail, even if it's ugly, you get the full points for it, right? It's about showing that you can do a bi-rail and that you did a bi-rail. And you get like, it's 2.5 percentage points of the 2.5% of the grade. So I'll left click drag, just to make sure this first one's snapped. Left click, left click, left click. And then we'll just left click drag just to make sure it's snapped on that last one. Hit enter. And now we can turn snap to curve off. Now these aren't going to be perfect, so I'm going to tap spacebar to go out to my 4 views. And you'll notice, if I put my cursor in perspective, you'll see the start and end points are on there, but you said they're kind of at an angle, which actually doesn't matter that much. If you want to leave them at an angle, no big deal. But remember, you can always click on a curve, hold down your right mouse button, make sure cursor's over the curve, hold down right mouse button, just like you would for objects, right, polygons, and you can go to control vertex, and you can always move these in. It's important though to not move the start and the end point. So like this point and this point, don't move those. The other ones, if you want to move them to just kind of shape them a little bit, you can do that, right? So I can kind of go in here and just do a little bit of better shaping, right? So you just click on the object, hold down right mouse button over it, control vertex, and we just do a little bit of shaping to these curves. But I always kind of do those from the other view just because it's a lot easier to get them snapped onto the ends from a side view, and then go back and do kind of that extra work later on. But remember that start and end points, really important that those stay where they're at. And that's actually the hardest part about the bi-rails, drawing the curves out. But this is a simple boat. Imagine having to build just a front fender of a car, right? You'd have to make one of these bi-rails with a couple of curves for that kind of half arch, the arch shape for the wheel well. And then you'd have to probably do 4 or 5 other ones for all the different separate sections. And when you're doing this for a whole car, it's technically a correct way to do it, but it is hard and time consuming. And there are other ways that are a lot faster and easier that give you the same result in mesh. All right, so now how do we do this bi-rail? Because we've got the curves drawn. We go to surfaces, right? And in this case, I'll just make sure nothing's selected. We go to surfaces, bi-rail. Now you'll see there are 3 bi-rail options: bi-rail 1, bi-rail 2, bi-rail 3. These could all be combined into one bi-rail tool, but these go back to Maya when it started 20 plus years ago, and nobody ever condensed them because nobody really does much with the NURBS tools anymore. Really, they're the same tools they had a long time ago. So the biggest difference though is Birail 1 can only use one profile curve, Birail 2 can use two profile curves, Birail 3 Plus can use as many, basically 3 Plus. In this case, since we have 4 profiles, and you'll notice that I only drew 2 for this axis. That's because Maya's Birail can only use 2 rail curves. So it doesn't matter if you were drawing this kind of going up, right, instead of like this direction. You can only have 2 in one of the directions, right? So in this case, the profile curves are automatically the ones that are more than 2, right? So these ones are the profile curves right here. So we'll go to surfaces, Birail, Birail 3 Plus tool. We'll go to the options box, because you'll see that just like all of our other surface stuff, it has output polygons. So we output polygons. We go quads in general. And in this case, if you want to do per surface, you could, because we want to keep it pretty uniform and clean. So in this case, I'll maybe do per surface. And if you're going to use per surface, and if you want to use per isoparm, that's fine too. No problem here, whatever you want to do. But if we wanted to use per surface, we'd probably want more edge loops, right? Like that. We'll hit Birail 3 Plus. And you'll notice down here, it actually tells us what to do, right? So at the very bottom corner, you know, right, my cursor over it kind of highlights it differently, but if you look there, it says select any number of profile curves. So it's telling us we have to select these curves first. So I'll click on that one, and you kind of do it in order like a loft. And now you see down here it says select additional profiles or press enter to start rail curves. Since I have more profiles, I'll click on that one. And you don't have to hold down shift for this one. No shift, you don't have to hold down shift. You just left click. Left click, left click. Now I've done all the profiles. I want to select the rails. So what I do is I hit enter. And you'll see down here now it says select 2 rail curves. So at some point, once you've selected all those curves and you hit enter, it's going to say you only get 2 more now. So we select that one, and then that one, and there's your geometry. And you see how in this case that the per surface actually worked pretty decent, right? So in this case, if you wanted to use, you know, NURBS tessellate, and you wanted to use per surf instead of per span, and you definitely want higher numbers for that, you can do that. Now you notice it gets squiggly because of where the points are at. It's just, I find Birails in particular are way too detached from real-time feedback and take a long time to get all the curves snapped and aligned. That it's just, it takes you like 4 times longer to build a car. That's not any better quality. So this is all you have to do for exercise 1 though, it's this. I don't even care if you flip it, and you don't have to delete history, so don't worry about deleting history or freezing transforms or cleaning up outliner. That stuff's fine. I want to come in and basically see a geometry that kind of looks like part of a boat hole, and I want to see curves, right? And if I click on this geometry, I should be able to see Birail, right? If all of those things are there, that's exercise 1. That's all you have to turn in for exercise 1. But it does get you to see what a Birail is and how to do a Birail, even if it's a simple version of it. So that's a great place to stop.